Well, thank you for joining me today for another webinar here on the CBC Basecamp. So you're aware, if you're watching the recorded version of this, we are recording this with a live audience today via virtual means, and I'll be taking questions from the audience that's participating. They'll be sending them to me by text, and you'll hear me repeat the question if it's asked, and then I'll answer the question from there. So the purpose of this is that right now, as I'm recording this, we are in the midst of the corona or COVID-19 virus that is sweeping the world today. And this is what it's presenting us. It's presenting us that we're going to have to learn new communication processes for the new world that we're going to be operating in today and into the future. And I'm going to give you my reasons for doing this. Prior to doing this, I've done a lot of research on past epidemics like this. What is the holdover afterwards? How does it change? And you know, one of the things I've discussed with people, many of us are aware of the 9/11 crisis that happened in this country, and we know the differences of how it changed our world after the 9/11 tragedy. But the funny thing was the stock market recovered in, believe it or not, 59 days, according to Dave Ramsey from a Dave Ramsey seminar that I recently listened to, because Dave's trying to give people hope, and that's what I'm trying to do every day also. So one of the things is we've got to have hope that we're going to come out of this crisis, but it is going to change the way that each and every company in America does business. And I'm going to explain why that is, and I'm going to explain the processes that service technicians, people that go into homes, are going to have to start utilizing, and they're going to have to start using in their everyday practices going forward from this day forward, because I can tell you that business will be different after this crisis is over with. Yeah, we're all planning on coming out ahead of the ball game, and what we've all got to be doing is setting our processes and our procedures in place at this point so we're ready to operate when this curve flattens and the world goes back to what it really should be, like we enjoyed every day prior to this point. So that's my purpose in presenting this particular webinar today. This is where we're at today. Face-to-face contact, handshakes, they're no longer kosher. This is something we have built ourselves on, building trust with people from years, is the face-to-face contact. Now we can't shake hands, and now we are dictated that social distancing is now a part of our lives every single day. I don't know about you, but every time I go to a grocery store, go get gas, I'm staying my distance from other people. Why? Because I have fears. Your customer has fears, and you may well have the same fears yourself. So what we've got to do is we're going to look at a different way that we're going to live going forward. I can remember when I went to an airport and got on an airplane. I didn't have to go through metal detectors. I can remember going to gates and picking people up. And today it's a totally different world, the world that we live in after 9/11. And that's what we're going to see after this current crisis is over with. We're going to have to learn new ways to communicate and new ways to build relationships with our customers. And if we don't, we're not going to be successful in the new world that we've got to learn to operate in. You see, it still goes down to the same things I've talked about for years. With the customer, what you've got to do is you've got to build that trust. You've got to build that relationship. And the problem is, from this point going forward, this is going to become more difficult. Why is this? Because the fear, the paranoia, and the panic that we have in our lives every day right now. This isn't going to go away anytime soon. Many times you may wonder, do you ever wonder why your grandmother saved string, she saved tinfoil, she saved all of these things? Well, you know what? That came from the Great Depression. And I can well remember many of the habits that my grandparents had, and even my parents, from that time when we went through a financial crisis in this country and how it affected them in later days. And I think that every one of us will probably be making changes in our personal lifestyles. We're probably going to be looking a lot harder from this point of how do we build up our personal resources? How do we build up our savings? How do we cope where we don't have to worry about the shortages we're presently going through. Let's face it, every one of us has probably gone to a store in the last few weeks and we're seeing grocery shelves that looks like we're in a third world country. Common goods that we thought we would always have. So I've got a feeling after this is over with, everybody's going to have a big supply of paper products, cleaning supplies, the other things, because now we have lived in a time that there is shortages. And this is also going to create part of that fear, that paranoia, that panic that your customer is going to have. And you've got to understand this. In order to build the trust in the relationship with your customers, you have to understand the feelings that they have. And this is going to be difficult to make this transition, because I'm going to share with you processes that are going to be new for you, and you're going to have to come outside of your comfort zone in order to implement the processes we're going to talk about today. So building a relationship wearing a hazmat suit, walking up to the front door, that's a little bit difficult. Really, think about that. But in today's world, that's just about the way that we need to go out in public right now, with a hazmat suit on, respirators, face shields, and you look at all these things. But walking up to a front door, wearing that, looking like something from outer space, is going to be very difficult for you to build that relationship with. How do you trust that guy that's standing in front of you in a hazmat suit? Think about it. So what we've got to do is do what we do to follow the processes going forward. And that's what I want to share with you, your processes that you got to follow every single day in order to build that trust, in order to build that relationship, and work through your consumer who may have panic and who has fears. And these are not going to subside well, and they're not going to subside quickly, even when the curve flattens. In preparation for this, I've done a lot of research and read up quite extensively on the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. Whenever you got the Spanish flu, this is one of the things that happened. If you got the flu that morning, you were probably dead that evening. That's how fast that particular virus took people away. And the government was more concerned at that time of a world war that was going on than they were about their people having this disease. And if you read back and research the Spanish flu, you're going to find that it was 1922. That's right, 1922, before people became comfortable with face-to-face contact again. And see, that's going to be one of the residuals of this current crisis is the fear and the paranoia is going to be embedded inside of us. And those fears are there. And in order to be successful, we have to be willing and able to work through and build relationships, build trust with people that have built-in fears of human contact going forward. Think about it yourself. How good do you feel about bringing a technician into your house right now? If you had a washing machine that went down, or you needed something done on your plumbing, how comfortable would you feel right now with somebody coming into your house? These are the things to think about. You've got to understand your customer. If you don't understand your customer, you'll never be able to build this trust and relationship with them like you truly have to in order to move to that level that we've got to aspire to. I'm going to share with you an experience that one of my clients shared with me sometime in the past. In fact, she is listening to this live right now. And she told me that she had went to a automobile dealership and had her oil changed. And she was sitting in the waiting room there for it to be done. And all of a sudden, her telephone rang. And what happened at this point is the mechanic that was changing her oil called her and did a visual walkthrough under her car, showing her the various things that were under the car and reassuring her. This was when we were first starting to promote our virtual assessment where we recorded our sales presentations with our customers. And she told me, she said, this is just unreal. And how did it make you feel? And she said, it really made me feel good and to see things like that in the contact that this company took. So This was a process that, as she told me that, and that was over a year ago, that I started building and hoping for the ability for us to start recording more of what we did in a virtual type where we could actually record what we're doing with the customer and share with them much more. But see, that's where we're at today. You're going to have to learn to share the information, your reports, your quotes with your customers in a virtual digital manner. Again, they're not going to be keen on that kitchen table discussion. You know, for years we've taught that the secret to home sales is to have that kitchen table discussion. But now we're dealing with a consumer that's going to have fear of that. Now we're going to see that subside after a while, but it's going to take some time. So as we go through these various new processes, I'm going to encourage you to take. I want you to be aware it's going to evolve. You using new processes, new procedures, going a little bit harder, a little bit farther, a little bit deeper. And you're going to have to come out of your comfort zone to be successful. And it's going to get uncomfortable at times, but it's what's going to be required if we're going to get you to that next level of operating today and in tomorrow's world. Okay? The first thing is, if you show up in a clean truck, it's going to be everything. If you show up in a dirty, nasty, filthy truck, you've got to remember, what is the consumer hearing every day? We're hearing how the airlines are cleaning up. We're hearing how the ferries are cleaning up, how everything is being cleaned and being sanitized. So the first key thing for you to succeed is you have to show up with a neat, clean, and organized truck. Showing up with a dirty truck in this environment is inviting criticism, and it is building a wall that you may have a hard time getting over. So that's the first thing I'm going to encourage you. Never go to a customer's home at this point in a dirty truck. If you go with a dirty truck, you better be aware you're putting the wall of resistance up, and the ability to communicate with this customer, build the trust, build the relationship is going to hinge on the factor that you showed up with a dirty truck, because now cleanliness is everything. Look at, we're sanitizing. Right now, when I went to the grocery store yesterday, there's somebody sitting there spraying sanitizer on every shopping buggy. And we look at this, and this is what's promoted in all businesses. We're sanitizing, and that's what you got to do. So showing up with a dirty truck says that you're unsanitary, and it's going to be held against you. And I've preached this for years about showing up in clean truck, but now it's taken on a whole new importance. So you got to show up at that job site, at that customer's house, with a clean truck every job. It's of utmost importance to start the process. Social distancing. It starts at the front door. After you knock on the door, you need to back up from that door. Don't crowd that door. You have got to practice social distancing. Right now, look at the news media. They are bashing the president of the United States because he has photos of people that are not taking social distancing to effect. They don't think it's a serious thing. So social distancing, it starts at the front door. Knock on the door, ring the doorbell, and step back. Remember the rule of social distancing, 6 foot. If you crowd that door, keep it in mind, the paranoia, the panic that your customer is feeling at this point. So you've got to take this into account. You've also got to keep in account of maintaining social distance from your coworkers. In other words, there's no close together between the two of you. In fact, we got to consider, how do we put two people in a truck today? Because this is a violation of the social distancing steps that are coming down in the health warnings from health officials and everyone else. So you and your coworker need to stay 6 feet apart. If you violate the social distancing with your coworkers, your customer's going to see it. And they know you're not respecting the rules that are put out to us today. So you've got to keep this distance from That's from your coworkers. It's all important. Remember, you are presenting an image every single time that you are at your customer's house, and it's going on the whole time you're at the customer's house. So you got to maintain the social distance from your coworkers at all times. Personal protective equipment. It has never been more important for your health, but now it comes into play for your customers' health. And it also comes into play for your customers' reassurance. Because now we have preached, and I have taught chimney sweeps and certification training for a number of years why you need to be using personal protective equipment to protect your own health, safety, and welfare. But now it's totally different. Now you've got to use this as part of your approach to the customer, because if you're not using the things that your company is committing to in your social outreach, if we're saying we're going to do these steps, you got to do it. It shows respect for your customers' health, safety, and welfare. It shows your care and it shows your concern for that customer. And this is part of that relationship building process that we keep talking about that's vastly important, that we're going to have to work extra hard in the future to make sure that that happens. You got to have everything, yourself, your tools, your equipment. They got to be looking good. They got to be smelling good. They got to be smelling clean. It's critical. It's critical in this day and time. If you're not doing these steps, remember, what are we telling everybody? We're sanitizing our tools. We're sanitizing our equipment. We're using clean drop cloths, showing up with dirty clothes, showing up with hands that aren't completely clean, dirt on our bodies. Right now, going forward, you probably need to carry several shirts with you to change shirts and possibly even your trousers during the day if they get messed up. You've got to show up at every home looking neat, clean, smelling good, looking good all the way through. In fact, it goes right down to your haircuts, your beards. Everything's got to be looking good. It's got to be clean. Clean and smelling clean is associated with sanitization. So again, what are we doing? We're building the relationship with our customers because they know that we care, because we're taking care of ourselves at this day and time. And these are part of the critical factors of building your trust, building your relationship with your customer. Okay? Now, paperless. You know, we looked at paperless for years, and it was never about saving trees. Paperless was about elimination of the duplication of efforts. But today, paperless has taken on a whole new look, because today, nobody wants to touch money that someone else has had their hands on. No one wants to touch a credit card that someone else has had their hands on. Think about it. Nobody wants to touch a paper invoice. Nobody wants to touch a paper report. And nobody wants to touch your tablet or your phone. You've got to be able to move things in a paperless way now. You've got to start taking your money, the money that you collect, it's got to come across more than likely in a digital format for transfer to your company. It's all important that we get paid, but it's also all important that we make the customer feel good. And passing money, your customer, a lot of people have something against. And Brad, they don't want to touch money that other people have held. They don't want to touch the gas pump anymore. They don't want to touch a lot of things. So make sure that every day in your services, you're coming up in a way that your customer never, ever has to touch anything that could transfer this unsanitary condition to them because of the fears that they have. So you got to be able to up your paperless operating system to the highest level. Now, paperless transactions are where you're going to have to go in this day and time. Be aware of that. How do you put this up to the next level? And I know a lot of us, you know, we're of an older age group, and maybe we got a problem dealing with some of these paperless things. But you know what? We're going to have to learn to do it. Right now, I'm teaching you through a virtual teaching method. Did I know I would be doing this 15 years ago? No way. I had to learn how to do it. In today's world, I'm doing right now, this is what paperless can do for me. I can announce a seminar in 2 to 3 hours, have a room full of people just like I'm doing right now that I'm sharing with, that I'm recording this, and there's no printed material needed to be done. It's all done in a paperless transmission of information. So you've got to build your skills and ability to do this. So let's keep going. What else is going to change as we got forward? We're going to have to get in the method of maintaining and practicing social distancing all day, every single day. This means everywhere we go, this is going to be the new world, social distancing, because now we have this tremendous fear of passing a disease. Just think about it. What happens right now if you were walking down an aisle in the grocery store and someone brushed up against you? What would happen if someone sneezed within a couple feet of you? When they cough, all these different things. This is the paranoia that we're going to be living with from this point forward. And we have to learn to do this. We're going to have to learn to maintain and practice social distancing all day, every day. It's going to become a fact of life. And this is hard for someone to accept. Someone, when we used to shaking hands, doing all the things that we do each and every day, we're having to adjust to a total new way of life. And it's very, very difficult. As I do this, and I keep thinking, what, used to be Cheryl and I, we would decide, okay, what are we going to do on Saturday night? Guess what? There's nothing to do now except watch some more television, watch some Netflix, whatever it is, doing it in our home, enjoying our backyard, enjoying our times together. And so you've got to learn to maintain and practice social distancing. And this is all day, it's going to be every day. Your ability to shake hands with people may be a long time before it ever comes back. Your ability to have an up close and personal conversation with someone, it's going to take a while before this comes back. I'm even sitting here wondering, when will I've had 2 different speaking gigs that have been canceled in the last 2 weeks because of this virus. And I'm sitting here wondering, when will I be able to get in front of a classroom again and be able to teach and do something that I truly enjoy? But this is the changing world, and I'm going to take advantage of this by using the virtual means like I'm doing right now. You're going to have to learn to utilize virtual communication. Remember what I talked about earlier of when I talked about one of my clients being and getting her oil changed, and the guy doing the oil change, he FaceTimed her and showed her underneath it. So what you've got to do is start developing your ability to have virtual conferencing using FaceTime, virtual messaging apps, or other things. This is all important. You got to be able to show and share your screen, because in order to do this, you're going to be collecting documentation that you probably used to show this customer face to face. Now you're going to be showing it more than likely in a virtual setting where they're going to see it on their device while you are beaming it from your device. So this is part of this change. You're going to have to learn to utilize virtual communication with your customer. It may involve setting up Zoom meetings. It may involve other type of messaging apps that are out there, but you've got to be able to speak to the customer, and you've also got to be able to share the information with your customer in a way that they can understand what you're looking at and what you're trying to share with them. Facial hair. Bart just said a good one about facial hair. I think that's going to be a biggie right there, because facial hair is going to be associated with something that honestly can hold germs. So if you have facial hair, you need to be aware of that. But another part is a lot of guys don't like to shave every day. They shave every couple days. The problem with that is you're looking unkept. It doesn't present a professional image. And I often told guys, if you're going to grow a beard, grow a beard. But at the same time, going forward, I think that beards are going to be associated with potentially carrying germs. I mean, earlier today, I'm really lucky. You know why? Because Cheryl can cut my hair. So this morning, before doing this presentation, she gave me a haircut because I was getting quite shaggy. It wasn't looking good, and I wouldn't have wanted to record this seminar looking where I needed a haircut. So these are the various things: utilizing virtual communication, being able to set up virtual conferencing, and we're going to go further in the virtual conferencing and how you can use this to your benefit. You got to be careful as you go into this. Your customer may be new to virtual communication. I can tell you that I have been setting up virtual conferences for almost 10 years since I started using them. And every time I do one, someone doesn't understand how to control the links, how to get in. I get right to the time of getting ready to launch a virtual presentation, and I started getting the messages. I haven't got the link yet. I haven't got this. I haven't got that. And it's like, I can't find the link. And a lot of people, they have a problem figuring out how to turn the mic on, how to turn the camera on. So what you may want to do with your system when you're setting up the virtual conference, that you may want to send the instructions of what they do, sending them an SOP of how to operate in the virtual conference. Share with them. You're going to be recording this so you can send it to them later. And we're going to go further. Record your virtual presentations. We started promoting something called screen recording a year and a half ago, where every time that someone was talking to a customer and they were using a tablet or a phone or any type of digital device, we have been encouraging every client, every student to start using something called screen recording. And the screen recording, we had two different types of apps that we were using with this, one for Android, one for Apple. If you're on our education platform, there is a class on there about virtual recording, virtual quality control, ride along processes. Why are we recording this? Number one, so you can review your own performance. You see, that's what great speakers do. That's what actors do. They review their performance, because when you're making a sales presentation, that is a sales performance. And by listening to yourself, you're going to be able to get better and better at doing this. Number two, you're going to use it as a follow-up tool. There's nothing better in a follow-up where you can send the actual recording of what you're doing. I've already seen this process prior to this crisis, upping the sales that people were doing by using this as a follow-up tool. You know, what's going to go on as you go through this, one of the things is, by using the virtual presentation method and recording, you're going to be working in houses that no one is home at times. That may be part of your business model in the future. So learning to use that virtual recording and doing virtual presentations is going to be something that's going to take you to a high level. Okay. So, but again, and I will go be, I'm going to read here. I've got a comment from one person on here that said, I would go a step further with beards. Okay. I've shaved mine since this outbreak and have researched the beard's ability to carry bacteria, disease, and even parasites. I've shared this with a couple technicians. This is in my new presentation. What is your thoughts? Now, I want to add further. The person that just added that, so you're aware, is one of my trainers, Donovan Blanks. And right now, Donovan is in recovery from the COVID-19 virus. So what he's telling you has hit him very hard. And I want you to listen carefully, please, to his advice in this, because he's paid the tuition in this. I can tell you from talking to him this week, this has been a very rough week for him of this. So taking about your beard, is it something that's worth your health? Think about that. I think we all goes about that. So Donovan, I appreciate you injecting that into there, and I've added it in just like you requested. Like I said, anybody else that has questions or addition to this, please, text me so I can repeat it, because I want to cover everything that we can. You're going to need to look at scheduling software for your virtual meetings, virtual software. And what you're doing with this, where you can give your customer access to a calendar program that they can go in and set the time for their appointments. In this, you are going to be able to set the times that you're available to do these type of appointments, where the customer would go in and select, okay, I'd like to have my virtual meeting with you at 3:30 on Monday afternoon. They block it out, and at that point they get reminder emails. If you're listening live to this presentation, you were sent a meeting link earlier this afternoon. 1 hour ago, you got an automatic email that was generated by GoToWebinar reminding you of your meeting in 1 hour. Now, there's all kinds of different apps in there that you can utilize today. I believe one of them is Calendarly is one, but there's others. And we're going to be doing more and more presentations of how to move into this virtual world of operating in the future. So stay with us. See, this is what we got to do. This is where we got to take it to. We have lost the ability to shake our customer's hand. We have lost the ability to have a face-to-face conversation. Our world is changing. The world is going to change, just like it did after 9/11, just like it is after past crises that have happened to us. This is the new world. And if we're going to survive, if we're going to be successful in the future, then we're going to have to understand and develop the methods where we can have a virtual handshake and a virtual conversation with our customers. Because without the ability to do it, the panic, the paranoia, and everything else will continue to hold us back, because we have a future. I have hope, and I hope that you have hope of where we're going to go. Yeah, we've all got our fears right now, but but if we take in the thoughts, if we start the processes, if we have the faith, if we're willing to step out of our comfort zones like never before, we're going to come out of this. Once the curve flattens, we're going to be more successful, more productive, and probably more profitable than we've ever been in the past. And with that, this is Jerry Eisenhower and I appreciate you joining me today.